Welcome to the Educating Kids and Connecting Families podcast. I'm your host, Christine Furman, a homeschool mom, entrepreneur, and educator with over 20 years of experience in the areas of elementary and special education. It's my mission to provide your family with encouragement, inspiration, and connection. I'll equip you with resources and expert advice to help you effectively educate your kids in a fun and meaningful way. If you value education, quality family moments, and community, you're in the right spot. We'll discuss all things parenthood, education, homeschool, ways to balance it all, and so much more. Join us each week as we empower you to raise kind, confident, and independent kids while building community and connection. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 41 of Educating Kids and Connecting Families. I'm your host, Christine Furman, and today what I'm going to share with you is my experience being in Hurricane Helene. So if you're in the United States, Hurricane Helene hit on September 27th, 2024, and this hurricane really affected a lot of areas in the United States. A lot of Florida, definitely a lot of destruction in Florida where it came from, the Gulf and then hit landfall in Florida. And then it worked its way all the way up through Florida and into Georgia. And where we are in Augusta, Georgia, we actually were in the eye of the hurricane and all the way that far inland. So we had a lot of destruction at Augusta, Georgia. And the hurricane didn't stop there. It continued. It was destructive in the Carolinas, Tennessee. There were definitely effects of it all the way up to Indiana and Ohio. A lot of power outages, a lot of homes destroyed. There was flooding in Asheville, North Carolina. There were cities completely wiped away. Augusta, Georgia, completely no power, wreckage. The trees are down. The telephone poles are down. Houses are destroyed. Trees literally falling into homes. It just really was a very, very destructive hurricane that we endured. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share a little bit about my experience, how I prepared my family, and practical ways that you can prepare you and your family for natural disasters or just preparing your family in general. What are some things to have on hand in case some of these things happen, in case the water goes out, in case the power goes out, in case there's a gas shortage? There's all of these different things that could happen, and how can we prepare for it? And then, of course, I'm always going to share with you some activities that you can do to entertain your kids without power, because I know a lot of families have been without power. I know in our area, we have been without power for over a week now, and I know the kids start to get restless. So what are some of the things that we can do to help alleviate that? So I just want to talk with you about the ways that we can prepare for these situations and what happens when the power goes out. But I also would love to know, what are some natural disasters or situations that you and your family have encountered? So this could be a variety of things. This could be wildfires in the West. It could be earthquakes. It could be tornadoes. It could be hurricanes. Whatever that could be, power outages. Whatever these natural disasters have been, I would love to know how you and your family have encountered them. What have you guys done? How have you prepared for them? And what were some of the outcomes that have happened? What is your story when it comes to these? So be sure to join me in the Educating Kids, Connecting Families Facebook group to share your experiences. That link is in the show notes below. And I would love to know, what are some of the situations and natural disasters that you have been in? And what are some of the ways that you have prepared for them? So that is definitely what I would love for you to share. But I'm going to share a little bit more about our experience. So we ended up knowing about the hurricane. We were following it a little bit in Florida, but again, a lot of times when the hurricanes are hitting, I have friends in Florida. So when the hurricanes are hitting in Florida, I'm constantly thinking about my friends in Florida, and I'm watching them prepare. I'm watching school get canceled for the week prior to the hurricane hitting. So then that way everyone can prepare and be ready. So I always think about them, and I'm always like, oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what this could be like. Well, as the hurricane is, starting to make landfall, I start talking to my friends in Atlanta, Georgia, and they say, we're preparing for this hurricane because they are saying the eye of the hurricane is coming right for us. And I said, oh my goodness, I didn't even know. I didn't even hear this. So they were evacuating. They were moving west. They were getting a hotel, an hour and a half, 2 hours west. They were preparing their homes that if a hurricane were to come, a lot of times those are the high winds, could cause tornadoes and tons of rain, which then is causing these big trees to uproot and fall. So they're moving things out of their way. In case a hurricane does come and a tree falls, what's going to happen? Where's it going to land? What do we need to clean up? All of these things, right? Get things out of the way. So I had friends preparing in Georgia, which to me, again, I thought that was crazy. Like, we're in Georgia. We're not way far, but far enough inland that I would never think we would get massive effects from this hurricane. Sure, when a hurricane happens, we get tons and tons of rain, and that's expected. Tons of rain, high winds, and maybe a little bit of a power outage, nothing too severe in my case that I've been in Georgia for the past 4 years. Okay. So this hurricane, as it comes through, I'm concerned now about my friends in Atlanta, Georgia, because they're saying that the eye of the hurricane is going to come and people have evacuated. So what we hear in our area in Augusta, so we're about 2 hours east of Atlanta, okay, going towards the coast. And what we heard was, well, there could be tornado warnings. Okay, well, it rained and rained all day on Thursday. Finally, it let up and we went for a walk. So I take my kids and my husband and I, we go out for a walk. We take the dogs because it had been raining all day and it's projected to rain all day tomorrow. So this would be Friday, right? So we go out, we go for a walk, and it was just so calm and very peaceful that evening. It wasn't that late, but it was dark already. So it was around 8:30 or so. We go for a walk and we say, okay, listen, if a tornado comes, we in Georgia are fortunate because not a lot of people have basements to go to. Our house, though, has a workshop, we call it. So it's an underground area that we can go to. It's not connected to our house like yet, right? We can't get to it from the inside of our house, but we can go outside and go through another door and we can get down there. I said, okay, what we need to do when we get a tornado warning, we need to go down to this workshop and we need to prepare. So what are some of the things that we need to prepare? So here we are on this walk and I'm talking with my kids, talking with my husband and saying like, this is reality. This is what could be happening. So my kids were not fearful. I'm not scaring them. I'm giving them the facts. Listen, there is a hurricane. This is what has happened. This is what could happen. A tornado could come our direction because of these high winds, and it could cause damage and destruction. So what do we need to do to prepare? Again, never in a panic mode, but in a very like, how are we going to prepare for this? What is our plan? So we talk about our plan. We make sure that we have extra change of clothes. We put them in bags and we take them down there. We make sure we have blankets. We make sure we have somewhere to sit. We make sure we have a table because our thought is if this hurricane hits, or a tornado hits, who knows how long we're going to be down there? We just don't know. So blankets, towels, a table, chairs, basic food. So some snacks. I had a box of soup that I actually just bought out of nowhere. And I was like, okay, well, this is perfect. Canned goods, water. We filled up a cooler with water. We took that down there. Lanterns, batteries. So just different things like that. We were already preparing. What do we do with the furniture on the front porch? We need to move that. So we move the furniture on the porch. We secure everything that we can that's outside and we get ready. So the kids are helping. So we come back from our walk and the kids start packing. They pack their bags. They pack games that if we are stuck down there, we can play some games together. They pack a book to read. We pack our clothes, our blankets. So we get all of these things ready. As a family, we're working together and getting everything down to the workshop. And even at that moment, I say, okay, everyone take a shower. And what I'd like is I want you guys to actually sleep in our room. So we have nugget couches and we lay them down on the floor and we put some blankets and everything and they're able to sleep there. So it's basically a little area for them to sleep. in our bedroom. I was still a little bit nervous about the windows, of course, but I'm thinking we got a tornado warning earlier that morning and there was no wind. It was just torrential downpour rain. And I got a tornado warning on my phone. Okay, great. So I have my phone right by my bed. If we have a tornado warning, I'm going to get notified, right? This is what I'm thinking. Okay, that was not the case. So everyone's settled. We're all in our bedroom. So at least if we have to go, I can just grab them and go, right? The dogs are in there. Everyone is in this one confined area. So we go to bed around 3 o'clock. I wake up wide awake, not sure why, but so wide awake. And I was like, okay. So I got up, go to the restroom, and then I lay back down and the power starts flickering, almost like a power surge, which made me nervous because yes, I turned my computer off, but I didn't unplug it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't unplug my thing, our TVs, different things like this, right? I'm thinking about this power surge that is happening. So it's flashing and then it's going off. And then whatever is plugged in and making noise, that's waking up the kids. So not only is it light, but it's also noise now. So they wake up and they say, Mom, the power went out because at this point now it surged a couple of times and then it just went out. And I said, I know. I said, it's okay. I said, lay down. Now at this point, it's 3 a.m. It may have been raining. Now the timeline here gets a little bit hairy because you just don't know. When you're in these situations, you really just don't remember everything. But it may have been raining, but nothing where it was like such strong winds that I could recall at this point, right? So I was like, it's okay. It's all right. The power just went out. No big deal. I'm going to come lay with you. So I lay down with them on the floor and I get them situated, fall back asleep. And then I crawl up in bed and I maybe slept for an hour after that. But then that's when it started really hitting. So probably around the 4:30, 5 o'clock mark is really when we started getting some super strong winds, some powerful rain, and I could hear things moving because we secured the front porch, but our screened in porch in the back, we left all of that furniture there. Our grill is out there. So I'm like, oh my gosh, all of this stuff is just sliding from one point to the next, and it's going to be trashed. Our screen is going to be destroyed. Like this, I don't know the magnitude of what is actually happening outside. So again, I'm thinking we're just getting strong winds, and I wake up my husband. I say, hey, it's really raining, again, no warnings on our phone. We didn't get anything. And I'm like, what do we do? Do we just stay here? So the kids are sleeping. I'm awake. I'm like, what do we do? Can't leave the house now, but do we go down on the first floor and find a secure hallway? But we didn't. We didn't. So to be honest, we just stayed there. I just kept rolling over and just listening to all of this rain and wind and hearing things, but not really sure what was happening. And it wasn't until about maybe 5:30, even 6 o'clock, I would go downstairs because I was like, this is crazy. Something is just really like happening, right? And I go downstairs and it is just blowing so bad, the rain, and I can't see anything still outside. So I'm inspecting the house. At this point, I see some water damage in our house, in our kitchen, some that's leaking down, and still can't see really outside, but I still know that the storm is raging. So I wake my husband up. I said, hey, there's water damage. This is really strong winds, powerful. Should we do anything? And he came down and looked at the water damage. We go outside. We notice that these huge, huge trees are knocked down from our back. We kind of have like in our backyard, we have a fence. And then after that, we have trees. These huge trees just totally toppled, knocked over our fence, our neighbor's fence. One of their trees fell. So at that point, then we were like, oh my goodness, like this was powerful. But we still, at this point, we don't have good cell reception. We don't have power. I can't get on social media because my cell phone's not doing great. And I want to make sure I conserve as much battery as possible because we don't know how long this power is going to be out for. So we end up having this power outage, and the kids wake up. And when they come out, because I was now at the front door, and they were like, do we need to go to the workshop? And I was like, no, I think we're okay now. We probably should have been in that workshop, but we didn't. So what we start to realize is this was huge. We start to hear from other people. Trees were falling into their homes. Water was rushing in. Flooding was happening, crushing their homes. They're falling on their homes, into their bedrooms, and onto their bed. And by the grace of God, they were in the bathroom when this happened. This is a true story. This is my neighbor's mother that this happened to. And it was like, oh my goodness, what did we just endure with this hurricane? Totally crushed cars, power lines. Like, the pictures that we have seen of our town was just insane. Power lines just ripped up from the ground. Big, huge metal utility poles ripped up from the ground. Trees cut barns in half. The huge trees that were like so big, totally uprooted, landing on the homes. The destruction that happened from this hurricane was insane. So this then starts me thinking of like, how do we need to prepare for situations like this? Because now it's Friday, we have no power, right? And they're saying now at this point, they can see the destruction. So the storm stops around 7, can assess the destruction. And they're like, we may not have power for 7 to 10 days. And I was like, what? We're not prepared for that. We were not prepared for that at all. So what do we have to do? Well, we have to start looking at a generator, right? Either you have generators and that's great, you're already prepared, or we need to get one. And honestly, I almost said to my husband the day before, honey, I think we need to get a generator. And I didn't. I didn't say it, and we didn't get one. So we didn't have a generator. Now, there are all different types of generators, and I'm learning this as I'm like experiencing this, right? So there's a gas generator. So the gas you would put in a car. There's a solar generator powered by the sun and solar panels, I'm assuming. Again, I don't know much about this. Propane, like the propane you would take for your grills. And then natural gas, which would be the gas that we use for our homes. So there's different types of generators that you can look into. We are looking into getting a tri-fueled one. So then that way it could be either gas, propane, or natural gas. And then that way we have some options. Obviously, solar is great as long as there's sun, right? As long as it can be powered back up. And gas, then here's the thing. If you get a gas generator and now everyone's running out. So this is what happened in Augusta, that Friday morning and Friday, everyone needs gas for their generators. If your car didn't have gas in it, now people are trying to fill up their cars, and we have no gas. Like literally lines. I saw and heard people say they waited 5 hours for gas. People were driving an hour all directions to get gas in different areas. I know for us, we ended up leaving on Saturday morning to come to Pittsburgh. This is how I'm recording because I brought no equipment with me. And I had to get equipment here recorded in Pittsburgh, set up a little mock studio. So then that way I could continue business as usual. So that's what happened for us is we went to Pittsburgh. We only had 75 miles on our tank and we couldn't get gas anywhere in our vicinity. We had to drive up close to Columbia. And finally, we were able to get gas in South Carolina, Columbia. And we almost didn't even get gas at that point. So we get up there, all of these gas stations, the lines are full. Or if there wasn't a line, you're like, yes, great. They would pull up and they'd say, we have no gas. So then we find this little gas station and we pull up and we only have about 3 or 4 cars in front of us. And we're like, great, this looks promising. And by the time we get to the pump, the regular's out. We moved to another pump and we were fortunately able to get premium or whatever it was to fill our tank up. And I was like, oh, that was like the most stressful of our trip up. Like, oh my goodness, what if we don't have enough gas? You know? So that started to become an issue because generators require the gas. And then that's how people are powering their homes. And then if you do want to travel, you have to go get food because now your refrigerators have no power. So you have to eat everything that's in the fridge and freezer, or plug it into a generator, or you have to go out and buy food the day of and figure that out because you don't have a way to keep anything cold. So this was really a big thing for us to go through, a big traumatic situation, to be honest. All right. So we talked about the generator. The other thing that's really important is water. So making sure you have enough water, not only to drink, but also to cook with and also to flush your toilets if the water does go out. And if they ended up putting you on a boil advisory, you have to boil your water because you don't want any bacteria because whenever they did the water, whatever happened with the water, if flood water got in, it contaminated the water, whatever happens. I don't know all the ins and outs of it all, but I do know that if the water becomes contaminated, you have to boil your water and they'll either shut it off or you have no water, you know? So you want to make sure you have enough water, cases of water, gallons of water. If you have a pool, you can use pool water for your toilets. You can fill up your bathtubs whenever prior to a storm happening. So you do have water for the toilets. The other thing I saw a couple really good things was one, filling up Ziploc bags and freezing them. So now you have an ice pack as well. So you have water when it thaws, but also in the meantime, you have extra ice. So that was a good one that I saw. Another tip was filling up all the cups in our cupboard. I know for us, I have tons of 40-ounce cups in our cupboard. I probably have maybe 10 of them. So, I mean, if we fill up 40 ounces, we have 400 ounces of water right there. Okay. And then any other cups you have, your kids probably have cups, anything that you can think of to fill up with water, do it. We did this the night before. I filled up a Ziploc bag with the ice that was made. So then more ice could be made. And I put that in the freezer. And then I started filling up cups. So then that way we could put that in the fridge, keep it cold as long as it could. And then we could have that as drinking water. Another thing that I saw was before a storm, make sure everyone gets a shower and washes your hair. So those are definitely some things to keep in mind as well. Other things, do your laundry, especially towels, blankets, getting those things done ahead of time. So then that way they're done. So you have clean clothes, clean laundry, clean towels. Luckily for us, we were able to do 2 loads of the kids' laundry, 1 load of ours, and we actually were able to have some laundry done. So that was good. All right, we're going to talk about food now. And let's talk about, first of all, what food to have in the pantry. So canned goods, and make sure you have a can opener. And then think about pasta. If you have a gas stove like we do, we have a gas stove. So we could have still cooked, or you have a grill, or get in touch with your neighbors and see who has a gas stove, who has a grill. This is the time the community needs to come together and really be able to help support each other. So you could always boil water for pasta and have a jar of spaghetti sauce, and you can eat spaghetti for a long time. Canned goods, soup, canned vegetables, different things like that to have in the pantry. Beef jerky, granola, cereal, those things that can be in your pantry and you can have and sustain for a little while. For us, like I said, the power's been out for a week. So we would have had to eat everything that was in the food and then hopefully get more groceries from other stores that had them. But the grocery stores, they lost power too. So their coolers were out as well. So kind of have to think about these things ahead of time, making sure that we have food and supplies for our pets as well, because they're going to need to eat as well. Any kind of things that you need to have on hand for them, any kind of medication and first aid. So if you personally have prescription medication, obviously we know that we're not going to be able to get things ahead of time, but hopefully you have enough. You have it in one location that you can just grab it and go. First aid materials, bandages, Tylenol, allergy medicine, peroxide. For us, I love to have baking soda and vinegar on hand. Those have multiple uses as far as cleaning, as far as disinfecting. So vinegar and baking soda are definitely 2 of the things that I always have on hand. So these are some of the things just to think about. We talked about that gas stove, a grill, even some gas camping sets. So kind of think about this as like, if I were to go camping, what would I need? So I'm not a camper at all, so I wouldn't even know. But if you're an avid camper, if you have a camper, you may be totally set. But for me, that wasn't the case. Luckily, we had a gas stove and we had a grill. If we had to cook, we were okay to cook. But if you don't have those things, maybe a little propane camping set would work. Other things to think about: flashlights, extra batteries, lanterns. We have lanterns that you kind of open and they could be bright or they can be a little bit dim. They also have red lights on top, so emergency lights. So kind of think about those things as well, because if you happen to be in a flood, you need to make sure that people can see you. And how can someone see you? These different lights, markings, things like that, to know that you need to be rescued. Candles, of course, but lanterns are definitely safer, because I've definitely seen that people have had house fires because they had candles lit. So keep that in mind as well, especially if you have littles. Candles may not be the best option, but they're always a good option just to have in the cupboard as a backup and an alternative. Lighters light not only the candles, but can also light the gas stove. And then extra gas cans, just trying to think about these things ahead of time. Even if you had 5 extra gallons of gas just sitting, somewhere on your property, you at least have a little bit of supplies there. Make sure you have your towels and your blankets and other things that you can think about. Your chargers, if you have that generator, or if you can go somewhere and charge your phone, you'd be able to have that. Different emergency phones or radios as well. I need to look into this a little bit better for myself and for our family, but you can definitely look into some satellite phones, emergency radios, different things like that, so you can know what is happening, because we're always reliant on our cell phones. And when the power goes out, when the cell towers go out, what do we do now? We can't use them. So we need to find other ways that we can communicate and even just let people know that we're safe. Garbage bags, if you have trees near you, a chainsaw so you can be able to get yourself out, some gas for that, tarps, duct tape, things like that. These are the things to think about as we, get ready for any kind of natural disasters. All right. I want to share a few things about the kids. So what are some things that we can do with our kids? Definitely have cards on hand. So really old school deck of cards. You can play so many games with the deck of cards. Go fish, rummy. We've learned how to play a new game called golf. All kind of games with your cards and with your kids. You can even just turn it into a sorting game where you're saying, okay, find me all the red cards. Find me all the black cards. How about all the ones that have hearts on them? How about all the number 4? So you can really turn just a deck of cards into not only games for the whole family, but also activities that you can do with your kids. You could do addition with cards. You can do subtraction with cards. So think about those kind of things. Math is all around us. Them reading, having books, having coloring books. These are the things that you just want to keep with your kids. Keep your kids doing something and keeping them busy. Different family games. So go to the game closet, grab out some family games, the board games, be able to play those. Paper, Legos, blocks, all of these different things that your kids can do. And a lot of times when the power's out, they want you to be with them. So keep that in mind too. If they're going to say, okay, here's the blocks, they're going to want you to sit down with them and play with them. Otherwise, they're going to get bored. They're going to not know what to do. Sometimes that happens. Other things, outdoor games. Take the kids outside, play kickball, go for a walk if it's safe. Just being outside too when it's safe is definitely probably going to help everyone's mood for sure. So what I would love to know is, what else do you think we should add to this list? What are some other things that you have seen that are like, oh my goodness, these are great things to know to be prepared? I would love for you to share them here. And what are some things that you can do to help prepare your kids? Asking your kids the question, what are you going to do? How do we do this? And showing them and teaching them, so then that way they have these skills as well. So those are some of the big takeaways that we had from the hurricane. And I just hope that you'd never have to go through this, because it really was the big thing. It was a traumatic experience, if you will, emotionally, physically, seeing things, emotionally seeing the damage and destruction. It was hard for sure. So just keep that in mind for everyone in your family, that this could be very emotional as they see the destruction, and being able just to be there for each other, be the helper. That's what I kept telling my kids. I want you to be the helper. I want you to go through the neighborhood and see how you can help. And they did. They raked leaves. They picked up chairs. They found siding. They found shingles, and they were the helpers. That's all I could ever ask for. Be the helper. Well, like I said, I would love for you guys to get connected with me more and share some of the other things that you would stock up on and other ways that you would prepare your family or other tips and tricks you have to help other families. So be sure to join the Educating Kids Connecting Families Facebook group and share the ways that you prepare there. Okay. So we can continue this conversation. But thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. Make sure you leave a review, but make sure you're sharing this with a friend, someone that could be in these situations that you're like, oh, this would be really good information for them. Please share it with them. And be sure to follow us on social media. And let's stay connected, because by being connected, we are building a supportive community for you and for moms around the world. Thank you guys so much for joining. Have a great day and stay safe, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Educating Kids and Connecting Families podcast. I appreciate your support and cherish each and every listener. If you found value in this episode, download it, share with a friend, or leave a review. If you're interested in even more resources for you, activities for your kids, and connection, I encourage you to join our exclusive community, Educating Kids and Connecting Families with Christine Furman on Facebook. You can find the link and any other links mentioned in this episode in the show notes below. I'm looking forward to connecting with you and supporting your family.